welcome you on into another episode of the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Mitch Spinell alongside Mitchell Balla here to give you the latest in area, statewide, and nationwide athletics. Mitch is going to be back here on our first episode of the week. Coming off an eventful weekend, we'll get to obviously all the stuff during the show, and we'll get to that more on as the hour unfolds. So before we get into it, I want to remind you guys, obviously, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, those are our main primary podcast platforms. You can also find us here on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, and BigTimeSportsOhio.com. You guys know all this stuff already. Mitch, coming off of week 7 of the high school season, a lot of sports winding down. A lot of sports already in tournament action. We got golf coming up here with a couple of teams making it out of the sectionals. They'll be coming into the district tournaments coming early this week. And cross country, I believe, is in there as well. And volleyball is about to wrap up.
Before you know it, volleyball will be there too.
Yeah, and the one sport that we still have some regular season action is football. And this week we saw a game in Tuscarawas County between Garaway and Indian Valley out in Sugar Creek, and I was actually at that game on Big Time Sports' broadcast, which of course you can find on your local access cable channels in the area. I believe it's Channel 15, 989, Maslin Cable 128. Those are all the places that we are on television, as well as our website, BigTimeSportsOhio.com, and the local broadcast network. So Friday night, I was wondering if Indian Valley would be able to really step up against the Pirates, who of course are undefeated, have had this long winning streak dating back in the regular season, dating back to last year. And for a while there, it looked like the Braves actually could stand defensively against Garaway, because on the opening drive, Garaway gets down the field into the red zone, deep in the red zone. Indian Valley holds them on 4th down. And I'm thinking, okay, this is interesting, because they had done that kind of with Dover a few weeks ago, like I keep mentioning on the show. But that was obviously a very solid performance by Matt Lancaster's squad, and the Braves looked to be getting off to a good start in Garaway. Unfortunately, much like with what happened in Dover, the Braves weren't able to fully get downfield and get into the end zone. The Pirates stopping them a number of times via the punt or turnover on downs. Turnovers really didn't come until the second half, I would say. But the Pirates, their offense is one of the best in the area, probably the best in the area. And, Ethan Miller had a very solid night. He was our big-time sports player of the game, 159 rushing yards, I believe, and he didn't even score. It was 2 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken, from Logan Yoder to Brady Roden. The first one was a very nice pass for the first touchdown of the game. The second one actually gave Garaway a 2-touchdown advantage when there was a deflection on the back of the end zone on it was either 4th down or it was the final play of the half. And Roden was in the right place at the right time to snag the ball out of the air and give Garaway that 2-touchdown lead instead of the 1 touchdown. And then Indian Valley in the second half just got shut down by a Pirate defense that I think does get undersold sometimes because the offense is so good. But Garaway has had some very solid performances this year. That's their 4th shutout, Mitch, in their last 5 contests.
So, Mitch, my question to you, and I know we still got 3 more weeks, right? We have weeks 8, 9, 10, and we're starting to get a very clear picture of what teams are built for the playoffs and what teams are really solidified already in the playoff spots. As you know, they expanded in 2020 to 16 teams in a region instead of 8. Which team down there right now is the most dangerous, Mitch?
I just described the whole thing to them, man. Garaway is the one team that not only could go undefeated because they're so good, but they're the only undefeated team because they're the last one in the IVC. Everyone has at least 1 loss by this point, and Garaway's last 3 games are against Tusky Valley on the road, Sandy Valley on the road, and then at home against Ridgewood. Ridgewood, that Week 10 matchup is going to be that's always the test, because Ridgewood and Garaway are always battling in the IVC South for a potential championship. This Garaway team just looks really, really good. And even against some of their non-conference opponents, they had a blowout earlier this year over Carrollton. Ended up taking on Waynedale pretty easily here on Big Time Sports. So I'm very invested in Coach Jason Wallach's squad right now, because a lot of those guys are just really in tune and very athletic, more so than a lot of their not just conference counterparts, but their area counterparts.
And they've proved it all year, Mitch. I feel like every week it's we're saying the same thing about this Garraway team, and obviously everyone down in Tuscarawas County knows about it. Me being up here, we're really only ever focused on the teams here in Stark County, so it's nice to finally hear about a team that is as great as Garraway is. And then for me to ask you, I kind of knew the answer already. I just had to make sure though when I asked you who the best team in the area was down there, and sure enough, it's Garraway. And look, they're hot right now. They've been hot pretty much all season, but it's almost like they're starting to gain steam right now as the season's coming down to a close. And that's exactly what you want. You want to be playing your best ball, whether it's any sport with the ball, let's put it that way, as the postseason nears, if you're a team that's going to make it there. And Caraway looks legit, Mitch. I'd love to see what type of run they make here once the playoffs do start, but they still got 3 more weeks to see, how they fare and how they end up.
I mean, obviously 17-0, I forgot to mention, was the final. And I'm looking at the schedule that Garraway has posted. They've scored 248 points this year. They've only failed to score more than like 33 or more points twice. Season opener against Bel Air, 21-14. That was their closest game so far. And then this past week, 17-0. But again, the points allowed 31, and they've posted 4 shutouts out of the last 5 games. It is very impressive. And obviously we'll keep looking forward to seeing where the Pirates go from here. Now, as for the Stark matchups, I know there's a lot of games to get to, and we didn't have necessarily a Stark game that BTS was at this week. What happened between Lake and McKinley this past week? Because this Lake team was undefeated going in, and McKinley got off to a really rough start, but had seen life in the last 2 weeks, and all of a sudden now McKinley is a sort of pseudo maybe contender, even despite their record.
Mitch, they are a contender. It's not a maybe anymore. In my opinion, they are a contender. And I had a chance to talk with head coach Antonio Hall before the game. That is where, technically Big Time Sports was. Myself and Gianni Capuano were out at Blue Streak Stadium on Friday night in Uniontown. They schedule games the way they do for a reason. And they went on the road in 2 of their first 3 games and then hosted a very tough Dublin Kaufman team at home week 3. And he said it was for moments like that. And what I mean when he says like that game at Lake, right? You don't know that Lake's going to be undefeated, but Lake is a very hard place to play. It's a different type of stadium. It's a different type of atmosphere over at Lake. The stadium and the field actually is down below. It's actually one of my favorite stadiums. It is my favorite stadium in the Federal League. I know McKinley should be, but you have to realize McKinley's also playing at NFL stadium. So if you take that away, Lake by far is the favorite venue in the Federal League when it comes to football. He said that they scheduled those tough opponents on purpose. They went to Menor, went to Fitch, played Dublin Kaufman. They started off 0-3. They lost a tough one at home to Perry, in which they were up 28-17. But Mitch, since then they've rattled off 3 straight wins, and it's not been close. We mentioned last episode they had outscored their opponents over Hoover and Green 93-28 in just the last 2 games. They go to Lake, hand Lake their first loss of the season. McKinley wins 36-26. Nino Hill, what can you say about the running back? 33 carries, 190 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he's a sophomore, people. Mm-hmm. He's a sophomore, and he looks the part of a senior running back. This is a special talent you have up here in Stark County. If schools haven't already, it's only going to be a matter of time before you have some big Division I schools coming to look at Nino Hill. And he paced the offense, but Keaton Road was able to throw the ball when he needed to. He had 1 interception for McKinley. And Sincere McNeil, Mitch, as soon as a team tries to take that run away from McKinley, Sincere McNeil's a problem on the outside. He had 87 receiving yards, I believe. I believe it's the only person that caught a pass from Keaton Road. McKinley is starting to figure it out. They're starting to gel. They look like a team, and they expected to win. Now, on the flip side for Lake was down a few players. Lake has been a team that's done this 2-quarterback system with Cale Jarvis and Will Butler. Jarvis was out. He is more so the passing quarterback for Lake, where Butler's the running quarterback. And you saw that when Lake had to pass this week, it just did not turn out well for them. Butler had 2 interceptions. One was just a very costly interception for the senior quarterback. But, if you know what your game plan is, and that's all you're supposed to run, and Jarvis is supposed to throw, and you only have 5 days to really get ready for it, it's going to be hard on a team. But listen, Lake was up 14-0. They punched McKinley in the mouth. They returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown.
Yep.
It was 14-0 within the first 5 minutes. And I really thought to myself, like, wow, I know Lake's good, but they punched him in the mouth. But then McKinley came back and they punched back, Mitch, and it looked like Lake wasn't ready for it. McKinley is a team I don't want to see right now if you're a team on their schedule. And I would I'm going to be shocked with how they're playing right now. And it's high school football. A lot can change and teams can play each other very well. But if McKinley were not to win out in the Federal League, their next 2 weeks before they take on Massillon in week 10, I would be shocked. I think this is McKinley's league to win. But obviously Lake with one loss now is just, they're sitting right there at the top with each other. But Mitch, Lake and McKinley, in my opinion, are head and shoulders above the rest of the teams in the Federal League right now. Some other scores, you had Jackson throttling Glen Oak 38-0 at Albert Fife Stadium on homecoming night. Hoover and Perry, that's a game that went way under the radar, Mitch. Both teams had one Federal League loss. The team that won was realistically going to be right there, one game behind for lead in the Federal League. And so Hoover goes to Perry, wins 24-14. Big win for the Vikings. The upset of the week, Louisville 27, Green 23. Louisville finally beats Green for the first time in a number of years. Just a shocker there. Green was up by, I believe, 2 possessions early in the second half, and Louisville came all the way back. Green had a chance for a Hail Mary at the end. Obviously didn't get there. Massillon defeating Middletown from Delaware 42-24. Massillon remains one of the hottest teams in the state of Ohio since their week 1 loss. And then Mitch, another crazy game. Canton South 39, Fairless 38. Just what was an offensive shootout turned into 2 defensive plays deciding the game, in which I believe Canton South forced a fumble and returns it. They win 39-38. That's now 2 straight losses for Fairless in conference. And now I believe Canton South and CVCA are both atop the Pac-7, which is crazy. And now Northwest is just right behind them too. There's a lot to play for with 3 weeks to go in the high school football season.
Absolutely. And then as far as this area goes, Dover unfortunately losing their 3rd contest in a row. This one in double overtime, 23-16 to Columbus St. Francis de Sales. So Dover obviously not working a lot of in-conference games so far this year. I mean, the conference whole situation there is pretty messy to begin with. So you have these kind of random matchups that they'll face off with faraway schools, taking on schools from like West Virginia even. I believe they have one coming up here next week. But yeah, Dover's just got a tough stretch going on. Not necessarily their own fault, because these teams that they're taking on pretty competitive. And, you know, it's a tough situation. And then New Philadelphia did get back on track this week for the 2nd consecutive week, beating Madison Comprehensive 21-0, I think, as they expected. So, you know, New Philadelphia is kind of hovering around that 500 spot right now, like Dover is. We'll see what happens there in a couple of weeks when they face off here on BTS. And it'll be, we're down the stretch now. We're down the stretch of the season. Sure. Teams are really trying to solidify their own playoff positions, and we got to take a look at those rankings each and every week. So when we come back, I want to get more into the professional side. I've got my Ohio State and Cleveland color shirt here, and it's not Victory Monday, but we'll get into it on the other side of the break.
When others treat your fries as an afterthought, all you're left with are cold, soggy fries. That's why Wendy's new fries are ones you won't forget, guaranteed to be hot and crispy, or we'll replace them. We're talking natural cut, skin-on fries, perfectly seasoned with a hint of sea salt. In fact, they're even preferred almost 2-to-1 over McDonald's. These are fries so hot and crispy, they beg a new question.
What would you like with your fries?
Try them today, only at Wendy's.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, taste preference based on a national taste test by an independent research company.
Buying a home has never been so affordable with record low interest rates. Hartzler's Quality Housing is ready to put over 40 years of experience to work for you. Family owned and operated since 1978, Hartzler's has a wide selection of model homes on site with a knowledgeable team to help make your new home a reality. Open 6 days a week, visit them off I-77 in Dover or online at hartzlers.com. Hartzler's Quality Housing. Quality from start to finish.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the Ferris deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris. Think Ferris!
You invest a lot in your home and vehicle purchases. Van Nostrand Young and Associates want you to feel secure should anything happen to those investments. we partnered with providers like Grange Insurance and other industry leaders to be sure you're presented with the most complete coverage to fit your needs. Because we're not only here to protect the items you invest in, we're here to protect your future as well.
Call Van Nostra and Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-497-1867.
We all have 206 things in common. Our bones keep us up and moving. And we at Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital care about every single one of them. From the tip of your finger to a brand new hip, our orthopedic experts will keep you going while keeping you safe. For every break and breakthrough, for every bone and joint, for every care in the world. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Visit unionhospital.org.
And welcome you back to the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Mitch Spinell, Mitchell Balla here. Time to get into some football talk again. And, we wish we were coming to you from here on a Victory Monday. That is not such the case, as the Browns lost yesterday to the Atlanta Falcons. So, Mitch, it's time to go over this one. I wasn't surprised by this because of all the missing pieces that you had going into the game. Myles Garrett, of course, out after his car accident from last week. Jadeveon Clowney, Jack Conklin, for instance, were also unavailable for that game. So, and as much as this Browns defense has been really struggling, it wasn't unexpected to me. That being said, it's disappointing, and I think the offense couldn't quite clean up enough of the defense's mess to get the team over the hump. And the offense wasn't even that special on Sunday.
You said it perfectly, because I picked the Falcons to win. I expected the Browns to lose, but it's how they lost, Mitch. It's the key decisions they made. It's the plays they didn't make. And it's the same problem now in all 4 weeks of the season. Our secondary sucks. I don't care how many guys we have. I don't care how good it is on paper. I believe I told you in week 2 that Greg Newsome said after week 1 against Carolina, it was an easy fix. It wouldn't happen again. And we've seen it happen again every week. The defense is bad. I know we were missing our best player. I know we were missing potentially our second best player, at least the second best defensive lineman. It doesn't matter because they were running the ball down our throats with a third string running back. Anybody that wants to say, well, we had second and third string defensive linemen out there. Yeah, cool. That wasn't Cordell Patterson carrying the ball one of the 12 straight run plays the Falcons had yesterday. Mm-hmm. It's just, so that argument to me is null because it's the same exact thing then. You're playing backups versus backups. They don't look conditioned. I don't know about you, but in the fourth quarter, the defense looks gassed every single week. And you can start to go back and say, well, is it because they don't practice? Is it because they don't play in the preseason? Because I don't know what it is, but there's something going on in that building. And maybe it's the whole culture thing. Maybe we thought the culture was changed in 2020. And maybe you can point your finger at numerous players in 2021. And now here we are again, Mitch. But this all starts for me on the first drive of the game. You take the points. You take the points. And anybody out there that says you don't take the points, you're now talking about the Browns, who since Kevin Stefanski has taken over are the worst team in all of football on fourth down conversions of 41%. And you're talking about the best running team in the NFL with the leading rusher in the NFL, Nick Chubb, and you don't give him the ball. You gave it to a journeyman quarterback who you saw come out of his shell yesterday, and he is a journeyman quarterback in the NFL. When he took a sack in the fourth quarter, when you couldn't take a sack, and he threw an interception into triple coverage to a wide receiver we've hardly seen on the field at all this year. I'm not shocked. I am upset because I want to see this team win. But at the same time, I'm not shocked because this isn't a good football team. And I said it before the season started. I told you this isn't a top 5 defense, and I told you that Jacoby Brissett isn't going to help you win 7-8 games, make the playoffs. And unfortunately, Mitch, I don't see how this team can win any more than 2 games max over the next 7.
Wow. It's a big ball of sunshine you are on this defeat Monday.
Defeat Monday.
As far as the late game mistakes, I agree. I was also frustrated on that last drive, by the way, and God love him, but Joe Bitonio, first of all, the penalty beforehand, and then allowing that guy to get around for the sack, that was frustrating to see. And then,
and Mitch, to that point, let's remember earlier this week, he appeared on the injury report. And a lot of us,
That's true.
there's some people, there's some people who thought, oh, Joel's just old. Maybe he just needs the rest. And they're putting him on. Maybe he actually is hurt, and we just completely disregarded that.
I'll give him that. Yeah, it's just frustrating in the moment. And
100%.
And as far as I'm glad you got to it. Jacoby, I think, got brought back down to earth a tad bit yesterday, and it's not like he played terrible in comparison to the other guy. Marcus Mariota didn't play well either.
7 passes.
7 completions.
7 completions.
Yeah. It's because I think they spread their rushing game out more. There were 4 guys, I believe, with at least 25 or more yards, and the leading guy had around 80 some, 90 some.
Algier had 84 yards on 10 carries,
Yes.
Huntley 56 on 10, Patterson 38 on 9, and then Mariota had 5 carries, and they had a Williams for 1 rush for 21 yards.
Okay, so maybe it was mainly 3 guys, and they were able to spread it out more compared to Nick Chubb, 117 yards, and then Kareem had a considerable bulk later on in the game. And again, when you watch those two, it's like you're watching grown men running down the field, carrying 4 or 5 guys with them. It almost feels like one of those tall tales you hear about a person from 100 years ago. We're going to be talking about them that way because they're so good, and they're just stuck in a system that's not really working. I mean, a lot of people are now kind of getting after Stefanski again for the play calling. I think they could afford to run more. But then the offense would become predictable. Granted, Atlanta does the same thing, and their system was working to the point where if you don't want us to run, stop us.
Mm-hmm.
And the Browns can certainly do that. Yeah, that was a tough one to swallow. But there's always next week. Now you got to take on a Chargers team that is. They exercised a lot of their demons against Houston yesterday, but even Houston made a bit of a run.
Yeah.
This was a weird week. This was a strange week because we'll get to it more in the next segment. But I was surprised by how many big leads teams got out to start, and then none of them were able to really reel it in. It seems like there were a bunch of teams that allowed teams to come back from like 17 points down, 20 points down.
Yeah.
And we'll get to those obviously more in the segment. And but as far as college football goes, because I want to stick on the Ohio teams for this segment. Ohio State taking on a very competitive matchup. Well, look, a team that tried their best in Rutgers, and I think Greg Schiano has done solid things for that program.
Yeah,
they were 3-1 coming in. They're now 3-2 because Ohio State came in and blew the doors off of them. But nobody cares about Mayan Williams anymore, like tying the touchdown record for the school, which is an amazing accomplishment considering he's primarily our backup because Travion Henderson didn't get any action that day.
And tying the school record.
Yes.
Do people realize some of the running backs that have come through here that hold that record?
Yeah.
Like that's the other part. I mean, to your point, yes, he's technically the backup, but the records he's tying are Heisman Trophy winners, national champions, first round draft picks. Like it's. Go ahead again. I just want to make sure.
I was going to say, I don't know if it was a Heisman. Who was it that he tied? Was it? No. We're just looking this up now as we take time here on this. If you're listening on audio, then that sucks for you. CBS Sports isn't helping me. Anyway, let's just say he tied somebody's school record because he did. But he did
tie the record. That is correct. I will look it up while you keep going.
But that wasn't what people wanted to talk about after the game. They wanted to talk about the punter who decided to call his own audible and then got. What do you think? What was your thoughts when you saw the hit late in that game where Rutgers essentially kind of just gave him a hard shoulder and that nearly instigated a fight between the two?
Well, it woke me up, Mitch, because first off, I'd like to point out this was the longest Ohio State college football game I think I've watched in a long time. The amount of timeouts they took inside 2 minutes in the first half, I wanted to rip my hair out. for a field goal, is that what we got at the end of the half? Oh my gosh, I was losing my mind. The fake punt woke me up, and I think you saw Rutgers show some frustration.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was, right? Yeah. They were embarrassed. Mitch, I don't want to say you should be embarrassed, but it's any natural competitor's feeling at that point when you're down 39 points on semi-national television, I'd be embarrassed too. And unfortunately, that's probably not how you're supposed to let your anger out. And he did. And then you saw a fight, potential fight break out. It was separated pretty quick. I will say that I didn't see any punches thrown. I thought both teams did a pretty good job, but then you saw the verbal fight between Greg Schiano and Ryan Day. And that was pretty much all the talk there was for the rest of the game, because that game was over. The backups were in for both sides. And it made for an interesting time when they went to shake hands at the end of the game, and we couldn't hear what they said. But then, of course, audio did drop after. In real time, you could not hear what Ryan Day said.
Yeah.
Afterwards on Twitter or, any sports app, they pushed out that Ryan Day apologized. Mitch, to this point, you could only hear him say he was sorry. You couldn't hear anything else. You saw Ohio State players yesterday. You saw the kicker yesterday, Noah Ruggles. It was a call by the punter. Yeah. It was the option he had. And you get on the kid all you want, but at the same time, to his point, Rutgers went punt block formation, all heavy loaded on one side. And the punter, who, as you see, every time he punts the ball, he does run to the sideline like most college punters do now. He did it. Nobody was there.
Yeah.
Like
it was open.
It was open.
Yeah.
It's football. Play football.
That would be like in baseball, if you're down, if your team's up 19-0 in the 8th inning and you're up to bat, and this pitcher just decides hell with it and just decides to start underhanding pitches to the plate just because he's tired, he's annoyed, he wants to go home, and you're looking at it and it's going to come right in a spot where you can hit it hard. Are you going to keep the bat on your shoulder? That's stupid. Yeah. But I wasn't surprised when they decided to be like, you know what, do that, because that was kind of a cheap move, but at the same time, don't get down 40 points and don't allow yourself to give up a play like that late in the game. It's unfortunate.
I agree. But at the same time, Mitch, Ohio State went out there and did what they were supposed to do against a team that had no business being on the field with them. And Mitch, yes, I'm a Buckeye homer. I'm doing this for all the people not watching right now and listening audio wise. I have my Ohio State beanie on right now. Yep. How can you watch the past 2 weeks that Georgia has played and the game Alabama's played recently? And how is Ohio State still third without even an inch of moving up?
We will definitely get to that on the other side, because there were some interesting finals this week, and we will discuss them right after this.
You asked for it and we listened. Buckeye Career Center is now offering Certified Nail Technician as an adult education program. This 216-hour course begins in November and will run Tuesday through Thursday evenings from 5 to 9 p.m. Learn manicures, pedicures, infection control, salon operations, and more. Other part-time certification courses starting this fall include phlebotomy and welding. Call 330-339-2288 to register or visit BuckeyeCareerCenter.org for more information.
If you're looking for a new or pre-owned car or truck, why not see the Parkway Auto Group? Parkway is a special group of automotive experts with 8 brands to satisfy your needs. Come see the difference at the Parkway Auto Group on Commercial Parkway in Dover. 8 brands and 1 family. It's Parkway Auto Group.
The Furby Electric Supply Company has bright ideas for your home. Save money by converting to energy-efficient electrical products or add ambiance with beautiful lighting features. It begins with a professional consultation and a visit to the Furby Lighting Showroom. Then certified Furby contractors complete your project right and on time. Since 1934, 4 generations have built a reputation of quality and trust, and they offer emergency services too. Just visit Furby.com. That's F-U-R-B-A-Y. The Furby Electric Supply Company.
It takes a lot of practice to have a winning team. Albin Title has over 100 years of combined experience handling real estate, title, and escrow transactions. They serve Tuscarawas, Stark, Carroll, Harrison counties, and more. So choose Albin Title for your next home refinance, sale, or purchase. They'll get it done quickly and professionally. Contact Albin Title at 330-334-5800 or visit their website albintitle.com. Let them put their experience to work for you.
You matter. Everyone plays a part. We all have a role. Each of us can make a difference. You do matter, and the best way to have a positive impact is to pay it forward. With each of us helping one another to cope, feel better, and know that we belong. Pass on the positivity today. Tell someone else they matter too. Alt Care.
Alt Care, Alt Care. Where you matter.
Fall is in the air and part-time career enhancement courses at Buckeye Career Center are on the horizon. Registration is now open for Introduction to Beekeeping, Basic Small Engine Repair, and Sign Language. These part-time offerings run on Tuesday evenings and begin in November. Let Buckeye Career Center help you learn a new skill or advance your current skill set. Call 330-339-2288 for more information or to reserve your seat in one of these or our other part-time classes.
Welcome back to the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Mitch Spinell, Mitchell Balla, Mitch, Pete Johnson, and Keith Byers is who Mayan Williams ended up tying the co-tying the record for on Saturday. Johnson ran for 5 against North Carolina in 1974 for Ohio State, and Keith Byers did it against Illinois in 1984. So those are the 2 record holders. Now we'll make it 3. I want to stay on college football because you were heated right before we got to the break, considering some of the other matchups in college football this week. And it's in relation to what Ohio State has done this week, or done the last few weeks against Big Ten opponents, Wisconsin and Rutgers most notably. And now Alabama and Georgia are still ahead of Ohio State 2-1. And Mitch, I guess you have some opinions regarding Ohio State's current standing because of where those teams have shown themselves the last 2 weeks.
Mitch, my whole thing is I just don't know how you can sit here and watch Georgia the past 2 weeks and tell me how they are a top 2 team in the country. They struggled at home to beat a gritty and underrated Kent State Golden Flashes team. And then they go on the road to Missouri and they were losing the entire game until about 6 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. And they ended up winning by 4 over Missouri, who is now 2-3. They did fall to 2, but I just have issue because Ohio State, Mitch, has not struggled since week 1 when they did play at the time a top 5 opponent. Obviously, Notre Dame is not what we thought they were. These rankings don't necessarily mean anything because these aren't the college football playoff rankings, but they hold weight to the people that make the rankings for the college football playoff. And my issue with that is you're going to see these 2 teams be 1-2 all year. And if neither of them lose until the SEC championship, that means the other team will be right back in the college football playoff. And I'm tired of it. Okay. Georgia looked like world beaters the first 2-3 weeks of the season. And the past 2 weeks, they've looked pretty bad. I mean, you can't really tell me they haven't. Yes, they've won, but they haven't been convincing wins. Alabama, for a second, you thought really could lose after, Arkansas comes roaring back in the second half, scoring 16 straight in the third, outscoring Bama 16-0 in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Bryce Young left that game, but Mitch, Alabama's backup quarterback, he's talented. He's just like all these other big programs we see. One guy goes down, next man up. You don't really have that big worry. I believe he had a 76 and a 72-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter for Bama when they scored 21 points. And don't forget, this was a 1-possession game, I believe, after Bama really botched a punt, a bad snap where the punter fell on it at the 4-yard line. I just think that you see it every year, and I shouldn't be surprised, but here I am yet again, surprised on a Monday morning. SEC gets preferential treatment. I will say I'm shocked. I'm stunned. Texas A&M lost this week. I did think they would still be in the top 25 because they play Alabama this week, but they're not. I wholeheartedly expected them to be the 25th team, but they are not. Jimbo Fisher is in a load of trouble there at Texas A&M. I did see that if they were to fire him, Mitch, they would owe him $95 million. He has the same record as the previous A&M head coach, Kevin Sumlin, did through the same amount of games. Remember, they thought Jimbo was going to fix everything at Texas A&M. They went out, got him, paid him this big contract. You thought Nebraska was going to have to pay a lot for Scott Frost? Well, $95 million is what it would take Texas A&M to fire Jimbo Fisher. I really don't think you can justify that. No. Although it's not the money, because boosters at this point put a lot of that in there. But at the same time, that's a tough pill to swallow. And A&M is at Alabama this week. Mitch, as far as college football, stunned that Clemson won. I don't think Clemson's that good, but they did beat North Carolina State at home. I guess Michigan is the 4th best team in the country. I hate to say that, but they've handled their business so far. They won in Iowa for the first time since 2005. I mean, listen, what Harbaugh has done over the past couple of years is he's finally started to exercise some of those demons, right? Could never beat a top 25 ranked team. Couldn't win on the road. Couldn't beat Ohio State. Couldn't win a Big Ten championship game. And now he's starting to check off more and more things that he had never been able to do when he was, Mitch, quite frankly, one of the worst coaches in the Big Ten. He was awful his first few years in Michigan. And here they are, and you might not see 1 through 4 change until the final 2 weeks of the season, Mitch.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised that I would wonder if Alabama might jump Georgia this week because of the quality of win. Alabama,
They did.
They did. Okay, so there you go.
Yes, they did. Alabama 1, Georgia 2, Ohio State 3, Michigan 4, Clemson 5.
Michigan 4, I think, is the one I have the most problem with because Michigan, of course, took advantage of 3 very winnable, easily winnable games early on in the year, and they barely beat Maryland. You sort of barely beat Iowa in Iowa, which is tough. I'll give you that, but to see them number 4 in the country right now, I'm looking at some of the other top 10 teams. I would even put Clemson over Michigan right now. And I know Clemson's not the strongest team out of this one, but they kind of proved themselves on Saturday to be at least capable of beating an opponent like a 10th ranked NC State. Penn State will kind of figure out where they are in a couple weeks because they're 11 right now because they beat Northwestern, which was interesting. And yeah, even USC is tough because of that weaker conference. Yeah. You're barely beating Arizona State, but they are where they are. So really,
exactly.
Yeah, we're really focused in on the 3 teams at the top right now, maybe 4.
And I was going to say, you can all but kiss Oklahoma goodbye from the college football playoff, Mitch. They got beat again for the 2nd straight week. They just got absolutely steamrolled.
What the
55-24 to TCU?
What the hell happened?
Oklahoma, it's that Brent Venables defense, that Brent Venables, this, that, whatever, Oklahoma, I think it's hard to say because they are due for a loss against Kansas State. And this isn't me being petty. They typically lose to Kansas State once every few years. And the Big 12 is just crazy. And TCU goes ahead and knocks out Oklahoma. Mitch, if you would have told me heading into the next week that the 2 teams atop the Big 12, besides Oklahoma State, were Kansas and TCU, I would have said there's absolutely no shot. Kansas, for the first time being ranked since 2009.
It's pretty funny.
And TCU, that's where College Game Day is going. They're going to Lawrence, Kansas. That's going to be awesome. It's finally cool to see some parity in these conferences where we're just so used to seeing the same teams over and over. But other upset-wise, Kansas State, another team in the Big 12, 1 loss. They win, right? So they're still alive. They beat Tech. Georgia Tech, after firing their head coach, gets their 2nd win of the season. They beat Pitt at Pitt. Pretty impressive win. But the big ones, you go back up to the ranked matchups. You have Oklahoma State beating Baylor 36-25. Ole Miss beating Kentucky 22-19. Yep. That was a very, very fun game to watch. Came all the way down to the end. If you haven't seen it yet, you can go on any social media really and see the reaction in the coach's box for the Ole Miss defensive coaches after they got the fumble out of Will Levis's hands. College football is fun.
Indeed it is. Where is Ole Miss at this point? Because I would think they'd have jumped into the top 10 with a win against then 7th ranked Kentucky.
Let me pull the new ones.
Because I have them right here. Did I just miss them or?
Ole Miss is 9th. Ole Miss has jumped into the 9th. So
okay.
Top 10 is Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Clemson are your top 5.
Yep.
USC at 6. So everybody in the top 6 are the same except for Bama and Georgia flipped. Oklahoma has jumped up 2 spots to 7. Tennessee stays at 8.
Yes.
Ole Miss jumps up 5 spots to 9, and Penn State moves up 1 spot to 10.
Tennessee's an interesting one, man. I'm really wondering what they can do this week against LSU, and we'll definitely get to that later on down the line. So as for the NFL this week, I'm sure I didn't do very well on my picks. I mean, obviously, I didn't write them down, obviously, but I didn't pick the Falcons. It happens. Were you able to wake up for the London game Sunday?
I was, and thank God I did, because I was able to get Alvin Kamara out of my starting lineup in fantasy football just in time.
Oh, and that was the game where you switched to the Vikings, which that was good on. That was good on you.
I did text you. There is proof for all the people out there thinking I might be changing my picks after the game starts. I did text Mitch before the game kicked off saying I was switching to the Vikings.
And somewhere out there after that game, Cody Parkey is standing a little taller, breathing a little easier, and he's not sure why. I don't know how it happened again. It didn't happen as bluntly as Parkey's did, because that was hard hit on the side, hard hit on the bottom. This was sort of like right on the corner. That being said, tough loss for New Orleans. What the silver lining with the Browns losing, by the way, is that the Steelers and the Ravens also ended up losing. Ravens ended up losing a second loss to the Bills. Steelers losing to the Jets, which again, the Jets aren't that bad this year. I don't think they're terrible.
2-0 on the road and 0-2 at home.
It's weird. It's a weird game. And the Kenny Pickett era has officially begun in Pittsburgh. He had 2 touchdowns. I think he also had 2 picks.
2 picks. Yep.
But he also
emphasis on the pick part in his last name.
The next score we have on the list, all hell is broken loose in Indianapolis. 24-17 lost to Tennessee. I'm going through the AFC ones right now. Chargers exercising those demons against the Texans, 34-24, but it was not that close. Packers ended up beating the Patriots in overtime right at the last second. And then the Raiders, finally, no more winless teams in the NFL this year, 32-23. So, the 76 Bucks and the 08 Lions and the 17 Browns were good. As far as the other games, not the ones that catch my eye. 26-16 Cardinals over the Panthers. Eagles staying undefeated, 29-21 over the Jaguars, but they looked in trouble to start off. They had a pick six, got 14-0. Jacksonville, had some life in them, and then Philadelphia did what they did.
Well, Mitch, to that point, they did, to both teams' point, they did play in some awful weather. There was 3 weather games yesterday, you could say, and that was one of them. Trevor Lawrence, though, also did set a new NFL record for the first person in NFL history to fumble 4 separate times in a game. So there's that for the Jaguars. Hold your head high, Trevor Lawrence. Really gifted that game back to the Eagles, but still undefeated. And they showed some resiliency down 14.
We also had Giants over the Bears 20-12. Scoregami between the Seahawks and Lions 48-45. And the Cowboys, these 3-1 Cowboys with Cooper Rush beating the Commanders 25-10. This is maybe the Eagles aren't going to exactly run away with this race like we thought they'd. I don't know. I think the Cowboys are taking. I mean, Cowboys haven't played a lot of amazing teams right now. They did play Buccaneers in Week 1, but even the Buccaneers last night looked ancient against the Chiefs team that beat them 41-31.
Mitch, the Buccaneers don't look good. There's not been one time in the first 4 weeks of the season where I've said, "Wow, you know what? They look okay tonight. They might do it." They don't look good. Granted, I think the Chiefs still had a little bit of fire behind them from the Super Bowl loss to Tom Brady a couple of years ago, but 4 weeks in, you should know at this point the good teams versus the really bad teams, right? Although it's crazy that we're sitting here talking about the New York Giants being 3-1 because at the beginning of the season, that was probably one of the worst teams we said in football, and the Bears are 2-2. I don't know what to expect from the Buccaneers the rest of the way. And it's crazy, and that's something we'll keep an eye on, but I more so would just bring up the Steelers, and it's finally nice to see a team in our own division have a quarterback controversy.
I mean, we've had that, especially with the Steelers. We've had that kind of stuff in the past with the Ravens and to a lesser extent the Bengals, but yeah, it's nice to not have. It's nice for Pittsburgh to not have any more consistency, give them a taste of what we have felt for the last 2 decades consistently. And I don't know, Pittsburgh will probably be a 500 team at this point in the year, but if they slide off, then that's going to be advantageous for us. The question is, can we keep up with the Cincinnatis and the Baltimores? Time will tell. Now, as we go to the last segment, we'll go over some more sports beyond the world of football, and we'll also be back with more stuff right after this.
We all have 206 things in common. Our bones keep us up and moving. And we at Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital care about every single one of them. From the tip of your finger to a brand new hip, our orthopedic experts will keep you going while keeping you safe. For every break and breakthrough, for every bone and joint, for every care in the world. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Visit unionhospital.org.
Hard work is something you're accustomed to. Van Nostrand Young understands that principle. Our access is achieved with organizations like Grange Insurance. Safety and prevention specialists utilize our VanCan assessments process to ensure that you and your colleagues are in the best hands. You want the safest environment for your business, and we can guide you there.
Call Van Nostrand Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-497-1867.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the Ferris deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris.
If you're purchasing a new home, the team at Hartzler's Quality Housing is here to help. Take advantage of record low interest rates to make your new home a reality. Locally owned and operated since 1978, Hartzler's Quality Housing has the experience to guide you through the process. You'll find a wide selection of model homes on site to fit any budget. Open 6 days a week just off I-77. You can also visit them online at hartzlers.com. Hartzler's Quality Housing. Quality from start to finish.
When others treat your fries as an afterthought, all you're left with are cold, soggy fries. That's why Wendy's new fries are ones you won't forget, guaranteed to be hot and crispy, or we'll replace them. We're talking natural cut, skin-on fries, perfectly seasoned with a hint of sea salt. In fact, they're even preferred almost 2-to-1 over McDonald's. These are fries so hot and crispy, they beg a new question.
What would you like with your fries?
Try them today, only at Wendy's.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, taste preference based on a national taste test by an independent research company.
And we welcome you back to the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Final segment here. We're going to get into more sports. We're going to start with baseball, Mitch. We're wrapping up the end of the season. I don't want to talk much about the Guardians. We've talked to the Guardians to death. You know, they have 3 meaningless games left against the Royals, so we'll get to them. We'll get to them when we get to them. It's playoff focus with that team. Now, to the rest of the league, it's getting interesting down to the year, even though most of the playoff seeds are locked up. The only teams I believe that are still in the running are the Phillies and the Brewers for the last wild card spot. And I'm looking at the standings here. You told me 2 out of 3 Milwaukee would need to win, correct?
No, they would need to win all 3 because
Yes.
they're behind by 2 games.
Got it.
And they do not have the tiebreaker with Philly. Philly owns the tiebreaker over Milwaukee.
Yeah, unless Philadelphia has like a complete collapse and Milwaukee does everything perfect, I wouldn't expect Milwaukee to get in. I'd like to see Milwaukee get in just because for the sake of that city and team. But it looks like Bryce Harper and company will be back in the playoffs here pretty soon. So looking at these National League teams, man, before we get to the American League teams that Cleveland will have to face off, what you got?
Looking at the National League, Mitch, I think we have to talk about the one that literally was pretty much just decided last night when Sunday Night Baseball. The New York Mets. They did their damn thing. They're going to be in the playoffs, but Mitch, this is a team that looked like they were running away with the NL East a couple months ago, and the defending World Series champs, the Atlanta Braves, came back and swept the New York Mets in a 3-game series in which the Mets had 2 of their top 3. Some think the third guy last night could be their 3 over Cookie, but the Braves beat DeGrom and Scherzer back-to-back nights, and last night Sunday Night Baseball rallied to beat the Mets, sweep them. They now have a 2-game lead and the head-to-head tiebreaker over the New York Mets, meaning the Mets would have to sweep their last series, which I believe is against the Nationals, and the Braves play the Marlins.
So it's not impossible, but yeah.
Not impossible at all, but you're talking about a team that realistically was staring down a first-round bye, now is going to have to host potentially the Phillies or the Padres.
That's tough for New York, and I'm looking at to see who would be the. Yeah, it would be the Cardinals. Excuse me, who would be hosting a wild card series because the Cardinals are the lowest recorded division winner. Cardinals, by the way, are this sort of a sleepy team that nobody's really talking about besides Albert Pujols' home run thing. I mean, he's got 702 now, so. And it's gonna be cool to see him in what it looks to be his final year with one more shot running for the playoffs. And then Atlanta reached 100 wins, by the way, you mentioned with that series sweep against the Mets. But again, man, do we just undersell this Dodgers team sometimes because they're so freaking good? They've won 110 games. They've won 110 games.
Yeah, they've won 110 games. Their run differential is plus 333. They've scored 838 runs. They've only given up 505 this year. It's a team that does it both at home or away. They've only lost 22 games at home. They've only lost 27 on the road. This Dodgers team, Mitch, is the best in baseball, and I do feel like we've kind of undersold them. I feel like we don't talk about them a lot. Maybe it's because everyone just knows at this point, right? And it could be because we're in American League, where we are, we're in the American League. We're not looking ahead to the Dodgers, right? We care about winning the wild card series first, but yeah, I'm not really here to listen to the arguments of anybody better than the Dodgers in baseball, because I don't think there is a team better than the Dodgers in baseball.
There's been no team that's been better than the Dodgers this year. As far as what happens in October, we shall see, because it is kind of like the 90s Braves effect, where you have so many great teams for so many years, that same core together. And not to say you only have one championship to show for it, because a lot of players a lot of players and teams don't get that opportunity to win. But I don't know. It seems like this thing where, yeah, you win 100 and some games every year, go win the World Series and solidify it. And they've done that. The question is, will they do that again? But again, with Atlanta, I would see as the team with the most opportunity to beat them. The other ones, not so much. San Diego, it really says something that San Diego's 23 games back of the Dodgers in the division, and they're in the playoffs, which just goes to show. And then, of course, in the American League, it's pretty much all wrapped up. The Yankees, Blue Jays, and Rays are going to be the three teams from the East, and then Houston and Seattle. Seattle, man, you saw that walk-off that clinched in the playoff spot, which is somehow, of course, the way that they did it the last time they made the playoffs, which was 21 years ago.
21 years ago.
I mean, it's good for them. Fantastic for them, and it looks as if we will – no, maybe not even Seattle, because – the Rays are one game back of them record-wise.
Yeah, so pulling it up right here, the Rays are 86 and 73, the Mariners 87 and 71, so they are technically 1.5 up. However, Mitch, if Tampa ties them, Tampa does have the tiebreaker. Tampa has the tiebreaker over Seattle and Toronto. However, they're not going to catch Toronto. Toronto is, I believe, solidified in there, unless the Mariners caught them, but it would take Toronto losing all three, Seattle winning all three. Or actually, I believe Seattle has 4 left. I'm not mistaken. They do have a doubleheader versus Detroit.
Yeah, they could overtake Toronto if they get on a hot streak and Toronto bottoms out, but that's again very unlikely.
And I do believe Tampa has the tiebreaker over Toronto. Just something crazy to watch, because with 3 games to play, if something happened, all of a sudden you're talking about potentially playing Toronto and Cleveland.
Well, wait, no. Tampa has 86 wins right now. Toronto has 90. So Toronto's played 159 games. Tampa's played 159. It'd be almost impossible for them to catch up to the Blue Jays, right?
If they won out. Oh yeah, actually, wait, yeah, you're right. I'm not good at math. This is not a math podcast. This is not a math sponsor. I'm not good at math.
No, it's not. But no, we'll probably face off with the Rays again in a short stint, because we just took 2 out of 3 of them over Progressive Field. We'll play all 3 of them in Cleveland this week.
And it's Mitch. Let's put it how it is. As of now, it'd be Tampa Bay. I will be shocked if it's not Tampa Bay. You will have Bieber versus McClanahan, both pitched yesterday for their teams in Game 1 on Friday, and then you'd have McKenzie versus Kluber. I'm assuming is who Tampa Bay is going to throw as their number 2. Mm-hmm. You're talking about 2 outstanding pitchers duels, potentially, especially Game 1. McClanahan had his case to make for AL Cy Young this year. Hard to say which way it's going to go, whether it be him or Verlander or, Cease had a very compelling argument for the White Sox this year too. However, his team's not in the playoffs. That series could be a lot of fireworks. That series could be who can score 2 runs first, because we know that if you look at the 2 teams, it's almost like they're standing in front of a mirror, because that's how similar these 2 teams are in terms of payroll, in terms of how they go about their business and how they assemble teams. It's fun to see. My only gripe is it's pretty apparent it will be an afternoon game on Friday, whether it's 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock. I just like playoff baseball at night. But if you want to play night baseball, win this series, because you'll play the Yankees next round and you're guaranteed night games because it's the Yankees.
This honestly might be, if the playoffs run the way they should in terms of teams' record. And by the way, I'm happy that the Guardians got their 90th win to make it seem like they're a legitimate division winner. Something about teams that win like 88, go 88 and 74 or 89 and 73. It's just sort of like, yeah, you won, you did it. We'll leave it at that. But as far as this year, I can't remember the last time it was going to be this hard to get through the American League. You have a Yankees team that should have gotten in the 100-win range, and of course went on that big dry spell. They're at 97 right now. They could still do it. And then you have to take on would have to take on if you were to win that an Astros team that, like the Dodgers, I think is undersold because we're just used to them being good at this point.
Well, remember your point.
I know what you're going to say.
I don't know if they're. I don't know. This isn't me. I don't know if they're undersold, Mitch. I think a lot of people just straight up don't like the Astros anymore because in 2017.
Yeah,
I think it's as simple as that. I really think that the Dodgers are undersold, or you can say it's because they're on the West Coast. The Astros have not done anything since the cheating scandal, but at the same time, you can't really ignore over 100 wins. Like, they're a good baseball team, but people tend to forget it's a team the Guardians won the season series over this year 4-3.
That's true. That's true. They've had a lot of key season series wins, obviously against all the division teams, and not necessarily not the Yankees, but somebody else that was notable. But doesn't matter. We'll get to that. Those games are in the past. These games are in the future. And again, even if you get to the World Series, which is tough, you either have to face a sleepy St. Louis team, 100-win Atlanta Braves, 110-win Dodgers. Maybe the Mets, maybe the Phillies, maybe the Braves.
No, I'll tell you, Mitch. I'm assuming we're going to put our playoff prediction out there in our next episode. I'm going to go on record right now. The Phillies are not winning the World Series. The Phillies aren't getting to the World Series. That's one team I could put all my stock in anywhere else. I am not putting any stock in the Philadelphia Phillies. And if they do make the World Series, just make it. I will sit here with my face painted like a clown for a full episode.
I'll hold you to that. You didn't think in 2019, in early October, that the Nationals would have a chance?
I can't remember that far back, Mitch.
It's been 3 years.
I don't, there's been a lot of baseball played then. We're
That's
talking
true.
over 200 plus games, the 60 game season, I don't know. Part of me already regrets what I just said.
What? No. I think we have you. No, I'm not going to pull that out yet. As far as the rest of the sports world, I mean, not much. Preseason basketball is starting up soon. Cavaliers will get back in. I had a friend I was not able to attend Cavs Media Day, but I had a friend who was at that one, and it was a very cool experience. He said, getting to see all the players, and they seem like they got a really good thing going on. And this is the most excited I've been in a Cavs season for a long, long time. And this year I would have been excited regardless, because it's like, oh yeah, this team's on the up and up. And now it's like, we might be a top 5 East team. This is absurd. This is insane. Yeah. And we should see how it goes. And then that's it. That's all I have for the Big Time Sports Podcast show this week. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud, BigTimeSportsOhio.com, at Mitch Spinell on Twitter, at Mitchell Balla, at BTS Ohio, Facebook, Instagram, yada, yada. Mitch, what's the fact of the day?
The fact today, Mitch, is, a lot of people aren't going to say this is a fact, but in my opinion, it is. We are now in the best sports month of the calendar year. I know it's not technically a fact, it's my opinion, but you think about it, October, you're in the middle, we're starting to get to the middle of football for both professional and college. Hockey is starting up. Basketball, I believe the Cavs tip off October 19th versus the Raptors. Playoff baseball, you just have everything in the swing of things right now. So not a factual fact, but pretty solid fact that you are in the best sports month of a calendar year in the month of October.
What about April?
Just because the Masters and March Madness?
The Masters, you have March Madness, you have the start of baseball season. You're still well into basketball and hockey.
No,
you have the draft. The draft, man.
No, sorry.
WrestleMania occasionally. I mean, I'm not as big a wrestling fan as other people, but I can see your argument. I mean, again, it's not even really a fact, so I don't know why you put that in this, but it doesn't matter.
Because it's defeat Monday. I wasn't. The Browns.
You were so defeated, you couldn't even come up with a legitimate fact. And
here's your
I couldn't come up with a legitimate shot.
Today is Monday. There's your fact.
Great job, Mitch. Welcome. Thank you for listening to the Big Time Sports Podcast show.